Welcome back to episode number 9 of the Triple Threat podcast. Today, we're going to be ranking the best small forwards in the NBA, continuing our series after point guard and shooting guard. First, for my honorable mentions of small forward, I put TJ Warren after his performance in the bubble. I think that he had to be here, at least as an honorable mention. The only downside is that he does not pass the ball, and he's a terrible defender. Some other guys I had was OG Anunoby and Will Barton for the 3 and D, but I'd like to hear your guys' honorable mentions.
All right, so I only have one for my number 11 spot, and that's Bojan Bogdanovic. He's a good scorer, good shooter, but he doesn't do much else, but he's good at what he does. So.
I have 3 honorable mentions. One of them is Tobias Harris. The other one is actually Kelly Oubre Jr. Of course, CJ is going to say there's some bias in that, but he did come off of a career year.
You have a bias with good-looking light skins.
Hey, he did average 19 points per game.
Career year, and the other one was OG Anunoby.
All right. So my number 10 was Bojan Bogdanovic. I think he averaged 20 points per game in Utah this season, a 41% from 3, which is pretty good. He can space the floor, and we saw how much Utah missed him in the postseason. Obviously, they didn't close out the Denver Nuggets, and then it led to Donovan Mitchell taking a insane amount of shots, and perhaps that Bogdanovic should take off the load from that. He's also a solid playmaker. He actually helps their defensive identity, I think, and he gives them a guy that can switch on to 2, 3, 4-ish, and him as a secondary scoring option. Obviously, Mike Conley maybe was the second option when Donovan Mitchell was taking over the bubble, but Bogdanovic has definitely emerged as a top 10 small forward for me.
Jacob, would you like to go first?
Sure. I got Bojan again at number 10. We saw what he can do. You see the Jazz need him. As I said before, Donovan Mitchell taking the same amount of shots. Those shots usually go to Bojan.
Okay. I have Andrew Wiggins at number 10. Pretty not talked about right now because he's on Golden State right now, and I think they could package him in a trade or utilize him well next year. And he can drive to the basket, rebound. He's athletic. He can defend sometimes, and it's all about the shot. And I think he'll pick it up next season.
Wiggins is interesting. I actually considered him, but I just didn't put him in because of his inefficiencies and lack of consistency, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But I think that Andrew Wiggins in Golden State, if he stays, can definitely elevate himself to become a better player, especially with more two-way and playmaking ability, which I think having Draymond Green and Klay Thompson will help out with that. But at number 9, I have Tobias Harris. His all-around game is pretty good. He's about 19, 6, and 4, I believe. Harris can shoot the 3. He spreads the floor. Although he has one of the most overpaid contracts in basketball, he's still a good player. I think one thing that needs to happen under Doc Rivers is the same Tobias Harris we saw in LA, being more aggressive, especially shooting the ball, because currently in Philly, there's not much of a closer right now. Simmons obviously hasn't shown the ability to create his own shot yet, and they double team Embiid in the post, and especially with Simmons out there, it's kind of hard for Joel. I think Tobias Harris needs to emerge as a scoring option, especially in crunch time for Philly to advance deeper into the playoffs.
For my number 9, I have Gordon Hayward. We all seen what he can do in Utah. It was just unfortunate. I think it was a 2017 season or something like that, where his horrific ankle injury. But this year he averaged, I think, 18 shot. I think about 40% from the 3, which is really good. Also, I think averaged about 7 rebounds per game, which the CJ rebounds are an unimportant stat, but in real life basketball, you need rebounds to win games.
Okay, let me just be clear. Rebounds are 90% like where the ball lands and 10% an actual player's ability. But that's a whole different debate. But yeah, I have Tobias Harris at number 9 as well. Best way to describe him is a poor man's Jason Tatum. They similar play styles, just not as efficient, not as good as at creating his own shot. But why is that number 9?
I think one thing that Harris doesn't have that Tatum has, obviously, is the two-way ability. But Tatum's one of the best two-way players in the league. And, yeah. Number 8, I have Tatum's teammate. I have Gordon Hayward. What Gordon Hayward has become underrated due to this contract. His ability to make shots, lead the second unit if he's coming off the bench for Boston is very important. And the 19 points per game, I think he was almost like 50, 40, 90 club. I think he's like 50% from the field, 38% from three, and like 85 from the free throw line. That's pretty damn good. Hayward's a former star. He's settled into like a role player, but fourth option and still putting up these numbers at efficient rates. I like Gordon Hayward. That's why he's the number 8 for me.
For number 8 for me, these two guys can just switch. But for number 8, I have DeMar DeRozan. He averaged 22, and he had a 10% boost in his 3-point percentage because he went from 15 to 25, which obviously that's still awful, but it's an improvement. The mid-range killer. It's just kind of unfortunate that he's on the Spurs, but Spurs are a good team for him.
That's interesting. You have DeMar DeRozan on there because I think all he has now is name value. To be honest, what he does is shoot mid ranges, and he wasn't even efficient with it last season. But for my number 8, I have Gordon Hayward or Gayward, if you want to call him that. He's an all-around guy. He's not spectacular at everything, but as a Celtics fan, with Tatum and Brown's development, he's expendable, and I hope to get a big man in exchange with him. But I can see him being a 20-plus per game scorer on a different team.
Jacob, how would you feel about DeMar DeRozan in LA?
I'd like it because we need like a better point guard / shooting guard figure because obviously we don't. I mean, I think our starting shooting guard was Danny Green for most of the season.
Danny Green's a better fit than DeMar DeRozan.
I mean, but yet again, I'd rather have DeMar DeRozan shooting. That sounds bad because DeMar DeRozan is the best 3-point shooter, but he's a good mid-range shooter. But Danny Green was really inconsistent in the bubble, so who knows how he's going to come out this season. But I know what DeMar can do from the mid-range. I'd rather have someone put up like 22 points per game than whatever Danny Green did.
Okay, first off, DeMar DeRozan's not even close to 22 points a game. Second off, if you're playing with LeBron, and AD, you don't want guys that shoot mid ranges. You want guys that are able to shoot threes. He's not gonna have the ball in the field.
All the really good 3-point shooters are locked up.
CJ, DeMar DeRozan averaged 22 points per game this season.
Dummy.
Spurs, he's not doing that shit with LA.
Yeah, I think what DeMar needs to do if he goes to LA, I think he needs to come off the bench and be like Monty Ginobili, Lou Williams.
Not taking him off the bench. If they're trading that much for him, they're not taking him off the bench.
It'll probably be Danny Green, Kyle Kuzma, and like a second-round pick, or Talon Horton Tucker or something like that. He's an expiring contract with not that much value. I think Kuzma's expendable, and obviously Danny Green is. I think you slot in Avery Bradley as your starting shooting guard, or Caruso, or something like that.
I hope the Lakers so, because I really don't like the Lakers, and I think that's gonna be a big failure if he goes there.
When was the last time Celtics won a ring? Yikes!
Who has the most rings in NBA history?
They're tied.
Dummy.
But number 7, I
just want to say Celtics are closer to the next ring than the Lakers are.
What?
Interesting.
Yeah.
What?
You think LeBron's old ass is winning another ring? No.
I mean, he has AD, so.
What
You think Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are going to win a ring in the East when they come off Kevin Durant?
Yes.
It's going to be harder for him.
Okay, it doesn't even make sense because it's equally harder for the Lakers too.
With who? Talking about with the Clippers?
Yeah, this season was the easiest season in NBA history to win a championship.
How come the Celtics didn't win?
They're a younger team, Jacob. If the Lakers didn't win the Heat, that would have been the biggest.
Yeah, it would have been bad. Don't get me wrong. It would have been bad.
But the fact that the Clippers choked bad enough you had to play the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals, that's pretty.
Nuggets
sick.
were a really good team, though, CJ.
The Nuggets, they were overperforming they were just riding the hot streak.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
outside the top 30. Jokic, he's good, but
let's be honest. Nobody expected the Nuggets to beat the Clippers.
no, and it's because the Clippers
They choked.
They weren't interested.
They sold. They won leads, baby.
All right. So number 7.
Someone?
Yeah, I actually have DeMar DeRozan. Here's why. I understand why you don't like DeMar DeRozan. You have good reason. You have good reason for that. It's a 3-point shooting lead, and DeMar DeRozan is a bad 3-point shooter. However, he does everything else on the court really freaking good. He shot 53% from the field this year, which is a career high. He averaged 22 points per game, and he was at the best at his. He was averaging 5 assists and 5 rebounds. What DeRozan was doing, DeRozan is a poor man's Jimmy Butler right now, in my opinion. He doesn't have obviously the defense or the leadership, but DeRozan's game right now is the mid-range jump shot, which we all know he's a killer at, and getting to the basket and finding open shooters. I think DeRozan's he's became underrated because of him being in San Antonio and not obviously San Antonio being a team stuck in the middle now. But DeMar DeRozan was an All-NBA first or second team 2 years ago. I think DeMar DeRozan needs some respect put back on his name, and that's why he's at number 7 for me.
For my number 7, like I said before, these guys can switch. But I have Brandon Ingram. I put him here over DeMar because I think he won most improved, right? Over Bam.
Yeah.
He averaged, I think, around 24 points, 6 rebounds, and about 5 assists, which is really good. Also, he has a better team. That's why I put him here because he's going to have Zion in the future. Hopefully, still Lonzo. He has a good core to build around. Shot 40% from the 3. I think he shot 45 from the field. So he's a very balanced overall, which is what I liked about him.
Yeah, I also have Brandon Ingram at number 7. Isaac, if you have DeMar DeRozan at number 7, I have no clue. You might be missing someone in my list, or you might just be totally off on someone, but that's okay. But Brandon Ingram, he's turning into a legit scorer. Him and Tatum are pretty comparable, but obviously Tatum's a better player right now. But I think they'll have similar career types and similar numbers going forward.
Okay, CJ, just your claim. The guy you have at number 7 is who I have at number 6, Brandon Ingram.
Okay.
So I don't know.
I've heard you criticize Brandon Ingram before. I didn't know if you totally left him off your top 10 and honorable mentions. I was like,
no, he's number 6. But you guys have said enough about Brandon Ingram, but obviously he improved a lot, having the ball in his hands more often, and he shot the 3 at a career high rate and 6 attempts per game, and most of them are off the screens and dribbling into them. I think Ingram needs to evolve as a playmaker. I think the Ingram Zion 2-man game, especially in the fourth quarter, could be lethal. But Brandon Ingram's at 6 for me. I'm curious who you guys have at 6.
Number 6 for me, I have Chris Middleton. I put him here, knockdown shooter, can shoot the ball really well. He's also, I think, pretty good at defending. I think he averaged, a block and a steal per game. I think 6 rebounds per game as well. I think around 5 assists too. He averaged 21. We've seen what he can do. I think I don't need to explain myself anymore.
I also have Chris Middleton at number 6. He scores, he defends, he can play make, and without Giannis this season, Bucks were 5-1, and he averaged 27.3 a game on 44% from the field goal from the field, 48 from 3, and 96 from the free throw line. He's a legit scorer, and unfortunately, he's not a number 2 on our championship teams, but I think he's a really good number 3.
I think the Bucks need to find their number 2 if Middleton can't take that next step. I think Middleton in the playoffs needs to take that next step and do what he's doing without Giannis, those 27 points per game. Because we see guys, it's year by year for the Bucks, like Eric Bledsoe kind of falls off in the playoffs. Brook Lopez is kind of inconsistent from downtown. He'll either shoot 8 of them and miss them all, or he'll shoot 8 and he'll make 7 and he'll have a huge game. But the Bucks definitely need to find something out to lure Giannis to stay. Which brings me into Chris Middleton. I have Chris Middleton at number 5 in my list. Middleton was 0.03 away from 50-40-90 club. We've already talked about Chris Middleton, great shooter, good defender. That's all I really need to say about him.
Oh my, hang on. God damn it, dude. I messed up my list. Just looking at it, I have LeBron on my small forwards list, bro.
I do too.
Oh my gosh. All right.
I do too. I do too.
Going.
I had LeBron on my small forward list.
You do?
Yes.
I thought we had him at point guard before.
No, we didn't.
Oh well.
Wait, do you guys have Tatum?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't have Tatum.
Well,
I have him
we
at power
told you
forward.
he's a small forward.
I have him at power forward.
Why?
Because he starts for them at power forward.
Like, I don't get too caught up in the name of the position. Like, you know how Jason Tatum plays. That's how a small
Okay,
forward.
I'll put Tatum where I would put Tatum at my small forward list, and then I'll put him in the power forward podcast too. But go ahead with your number 5.
At number 5, I have the STL boy Jason Tatum. The hot topic is just right there. We've seen most of the time he's really good shooting the ball and everything. It's just he's very inconsistent at times, especially in the bubble. CJ, I'll let CJ explain his inconsistencies because he is the Celtic fan. But he averaged a block per game, averaging 1.5 steals per game, also on really good shooting. So I got him at my numero 5.
Yeah, I also have Jason Tatum at number 5, and I like him because he's from St. Louis. He's a Celtics fan. I mean, because he's on the Celtics and everything, but he has his highest of highs and his lowest of lows. Like, we were all watching that one game versus the Bucks in the bubble, and he couldn't make a shot to save his life. And I think in order to take the next step, he needs to eliminate those really bad games from the field because he had multiple of those throughout the season, and it would have like boosted his total field goal percentage up. And but he's on a trajectory to be. I think he could be an all-time great. He's for sure passing Jimmy Butler's by the end of the season. Like, the only reason I had him up here was because of his bubble performance. Like, I'm not expecting anything from him next season. And I'll talk about that next. But Tatum, he's legit. Pass, score, his playmaking's getting really good. He's rebounding or whatever, even though rebounding is very unskillful. But yeah, he'll average 25 a game, and the Celtics will be a 1 or a 2 next year. So.
CJ,
I agree.
Go ahead. Isaac.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Jacob. You're good.
CJ, how did you feel about Bam blocking Tatum at the rim? Just because we're on the topic of Tatum, I just wanted to know your opinion because you think Bam Adebayo is overrated. Just go ahead and.
It was a good play, but Bam Adebayo's final performance sums up what he is. He's a good player, but he has limitations, and those limitations held him back.
Okay.
So don't tell me Bam Adebayo is better than Jason Tatum. Come on.
I didn't. I was just saying that because
Jason
Tatum came up.
If I had Jason Tatum in my list, yeah, I would put him at 5 as well. His playmaking obviously has evolved. That's the biggest key with Jason Tatum. I think that's what I was most impressed with is in this season, not his scoring outburst in his, especially after the All-Star break. He was just on a torrid streak and going into the All-Star break. But the 3 things that I was impressed with Tatum this season was obviously his playmaking, his defense. I think he could have made an All-NBA team for defense. I think Jason Tatum could be Kawhi Leonard, but better. And that's crazy to say, but I think his playmaking is better than Kawhi. I think his shot-making tools and footwork, and I think those are better than Kawhi. And I agree with what CJ said. I think Jason Tatum can be an all-time great. But the third thing I was most impressed with Tatum is he eliminated the long 2, and he was taking more of the step-back 3. I think he was 3rd in the league in step-back 3s behind Harden and Luka.
His
Tatum
also 3% too.
Yeah, Tatum had a huge breakout year, and it wasn't just scoring the ball, and that's why I was really impressed with Tatum this year.
My thing I hate most about Tatum is when he does that little sidestep 3. Like, you see the highlights when he makes it, but when he doesn't make it, he's not that efficient with those. He needs to cut those out. They look cool and all that, but they're not very efficient shots.
But at the same time, I think the league's turned into more of a step back kind of 3 game.
No, it's
But
not.
I think it just comes with practice, really. If he just keeps doing it, not saying he'll be a James Harden or anything, that's hard to do. But if he keeps working on it, I think he'll be really good with it.
Okay, at the end of their careers, obviously it's very early for Jason Tatum, but I think Jason Tatum, if you guys had to rank at the end of their careers, if you just had to 10 years from now, could Jason Tatum be at where KD and Kawhi is in terms of legacy? I think he definitely has that potential.
I think he has the potential too.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'd be stupid to count him out, but will he catch Kevin Durant? I think it's pretty unlikely. Kawhi, maybe, but a lot of Kawhi's legacy comes down to his rings with the Spurs and the Raptors. If he wouldn't have beaten LeBron at such an early age in the finals, would we think of him the exact same way? Probably not. But it all just depends on if Tatum can win that ring in the next 2 to 3 years.
I think that if they make the proper moves this offseason, I think if they'd be my favorites in the East, especially if they add like Miles Turner at center or Serge Ibaka or somebody like that. But back on topic, at number 4, I have Jimmy Butler. I thought this was a pretty obvious pick. He's not in the top 3 guys, but he's definitely at the top of the rest of them. Butler does everything well, like DeRozan, except for shoot the 3. And we saw in the finals how he can single-handedly kind of carry a team to a victory, especially against a LeBron and AD team. It was very impressive. Jimmy Butler is tenacious, gritty, a leader. I think he proved that he's not a bad teammate this season. And him being one of the best two-way wings is what puts him at number 4 for me.
Number 4 for me is also Jimmy Butler. He does everything very well. He can defend. He has an amazing defender, amazing mid range. You all know his shot when he gets a smaller guard on him. He does that little post up move every single time on him. The one downside I have with Jimmy Butler is sometimes he doesn't take enough shots. He'll take like 12 shots a game, and I think if he limits that, I don't think he'll be one of these top 3 guys, but he'll probably stay number 4.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler, he's peaked out. He had a good series versus Celtics and stuff. Yeah, he's a dog when it comes to the postseason, but his lack of a shot really showed in the finals. And I get he was tired or anything, but if they're not going to even respect his shot from 3, then it harms everyone else. And I can see him having a fall off similar to DeRozan and being looked at the same way as like an underappreciated star or whatever. But I hope he enjoyed his couple months in the bubble because those aren't coming back. The Heat are gonna flop.
What happens if Tyler Hero or Duncan Robinson, especially Tyler Hero's case, takes the next step into like a 3rd star? I think the Heat can definitely contend. If I was an as an Eastern Conference fan, I'm afraid of the Heat for like the next 5 years at least. Like Bam is a defensive monster.
But big men like that, they're not going to win you a finals, especially if they're not good.
He can switch onto everybody. But anyway, if the dumb Tyler Hero shots went towards Jimmy Butler, I feel like they could have forced a game 7. Not the game 6 game, but game 2, the first game without Bam and Dragic. If Tyler Hero wasn't taking some of his weird one-handed floaters or weird pull-up mid-ranges, and those balls if the ball was in Jimmy Butler's hands attacking and going to the basket, I think they could have forced game 7. But Jimmy Butler was definitely underappreciated before this season. I think that we need to do him justice by putting him at number 4 right now. I don't think he's falling off after next season either. I think the Heat are here to stay.
I do.
Especially
you can tell his athleticism is like declining or whatever. He doesn't look like he's the most athletic player, and it'll hurt him.
I think that his ability to get to the free throw line can prevent that from happening. Obviously, he might lose a step going to the basket, but if he can get to the basket and draw the foul, I think he was like 2nd in the league in free throws per game besides James Harden. So he's got the ability to get to the line, and obviously free points are free points, and he's a decent free throw shooter.
Fair.
So, all right, number 3, I have Kawhi Leonard. I was debating between him and my number 2 slot, but number 2 is just kind of hard to move down. And the reason I put Kawhi here, obviously, it was a colossal choke by the Clippers this season, a disappointment. But Kawhi is not the reason for that. He's a great scorer, great defender. He evolved as a playmaker this season, but I don't think he's as unstoppable as the guys at 1 and 2, and that's why he's at number 3 for me.
Number 3, I also have Kawhi Leonard. I don't think there's much. I don't think I need to explain myself on why. I might have to explain myself a little bit because of my number 2. With number 2, I just can't see him moving down. But I got Kawhi number 3 because I think everyone who watches basketball knows that he's a really good player. So
It's a real shame because I also have Kawhi Leonard at number 3, and I'm a big fan of his. It's just a shame that the Clippers fell off the way they did because I predicted them to beat the Lakers in a series because of just how much better of a shooting team they are and how they can switch onto the guys like LeBron and everything like that. But Kawhi, he has to take responsibility for that loss, and he's not going to play. If he's only going to play like 60, 70 games a year too, you have to count that in as well. Load management, it's a real thing, but you gotta toughen up.
I agree. It's just hard. It sucks for Kawhi because we could argue that the top 3 players in the game are small forwards, especially if
Right.
especially if Kevin Durant, who's my number 2, comes back healthy. That's why I was debating. I didn't know. It's obviously an Achilles, which is one of the toughest injuries to come back from, but it's freaking Kevin Durant. He can score from anywhere, shoot from anywhere. He's an underrated defender, a good playmaker. He's willing to play on and off the ball. Kevin Durant, obviously an all-time great, and if he can come back strong from that Achilles injury, I don't see why he couldn't possibly move up to number 1 of this list.
For number 2, I also have Kevin Durant. He's a 7-footer who can do everything on the floor: shoot, play, make, defend. If you're 7 foot and his handles are really underrated because of how big he is. Knockdown shooter. It's just that Achilles, I just don't know how he'll come back from it. But him being Kevin Durant, I feel like I can't move him down because of how dominant he actually is. So that's why I have him at number 2.
All right, and my number 2 is LeBron James. Congrats, LeBron. You got your ring. Well, no one really cares nowadays, dude. Like everything you try to say off the court, everything, all that, like it's
Keep
whatever.
it
But
basketball related, please.
it's whatever. If you're gonna brag or anything that you won this championship, act like you worked so hard for it. Don't even like you. Tower Heroes getting real minutes in the NBA Finals. Duncan Robinson, like it was a joke. All they had to do was get there, and they only won because the Clippers choked. So LeBron, you can have your moment now, but you're not winning another ring. Sorry.
We'll see what happens. Obviously, Anthony Davis is going to play a huge factor to that. And if it's just hard to bet against the Lakers going into next season unless the Clippers bounce back and get a point guard. But obviously the Warriors are coming back. But the Lakers have 2 top 5 players, LeBron and AD. It's just kind of hard to bet against a team like that because you've got 2 of the top 5 players in the league. I mean, it's very hard to see. Like we saw the Golden State Warriors, they didn't lose with 2 top 5 players until one of them got hurt, and you had number 15 or something like that, and Klay Thompson, and you had number whatever and Draymond, like top 25 or top 30 or something like that. It's kind of hard to see the Lakers falling off, assuming LeBron can maintain his production. We'll see. He's like 36 now. You're 18, which I'm sure we'll be seeing all over social media. But we'll see what happens with the Lakers next season.
Yeah, my number 1. Oh, it's Jacob. You go. Sorry.
It's fine. I think we all have the same person, number 1. I have LeBron. Only reason why I put him here is if Kawhi won a ring, I'd put Kawhi over LeBron. It's just that since LeBron won a ring, I have to put him number 1.
That's fun. That's cool having LeBron number 1, but don't sleep on the guy that has outplayed LeBron in every single finals. They've went head to head in better scorer, better shooter.
Talking about Durant.
Yes, Kevin Durant, my number 1 player. I mean, the Achilles, it's slightly concerning, but KD, all he has to do is get to a shot. No one can defend him.
Right.
Like people always give LeBron credit because he beat him in the 2012 finals. Like LeBron had a good finals, 28, 10 and 7 on 47% shooting, but Kevin Durant had 36 and 2 on 55% shooting from the field. Absolutely ridiculous. And every single finals, people were like, "Oh my gosh, he had the Warriors. He shouldn't get this ring," but he dominated LeBron. He outplayed LeBron every single game, and he's deserving of the number 1 spot. And until we see that he falls off forever, because he's been better than LeBron 3 straight seasons, except last season because he didn't play.
I have LeBron at 1. He just won the ring. He was second place in MVP.
See, that is the easiest ring in NBA history. You can't tell me.
I know that. But he was the distributor of the Lakers offense. He ran the train. He was the conductor. He did everything for him. But I do like Kevin Durant. If Kevin Durant comes back healthy, there's a real chance that he could be my number one player. And to go back on that OKC series, obviously, KD was a freaking baby back then. He was like 23, 24, and they were playing the super team in the Miami Heat, who were obviously looking for vengeance because they lost to Dallas last season. With Dirk Nowitzki absolutely having one of the best postseason runs of all time, beating that OKC team in the conference finals and Kobe's Lakers. That KD, if he's healthy, I think he's probably the best player in the world. But we don't know right now. But then, I just want to go with the safe pick, the most consistent player of our generation, and that's why I have LeBron at number one.
Yeah, and don't forget who got carried by a 40-year-old Ray Allen late game.
Ray.
Hey, we don't forget the 8 points around here. We never do. 2011, unexcusable.
JJ Barea really cooking it up.
Dirk.
I mean, Dirk had one of the best finals of all time. But do you guys want to talk about Russell Westbrook and Chris Paul trade rumors?
I don't think wherever they move, it's going to be a significant move. If he goes to the Clippers, they're not going to win at all. If Chris Paul goes to the where's Chris Paul looking to go? Like
Phoenix.
That's irrelevant. Like it's cool and all in the moment, but no one's going to give a crap about it a week later. I don't really pay that much attention to those weak little trades.
You don't think if Chris Paul went to the Clippers, they wouldn't win at all?
No.
Having a playmaker. You don't think if they kept PG and they had CP3, if they get rid of Beverly, Lou Will, and Harrell, and they have CP3, PG, Kawhi, Morris resigns, Zubac, Green off your bench, Shaman off your bench.
Well, hang on. Depth is really important, especially if Kawhi is going to be doing all this load management crap. They're going to need some guys off the bench to help win games.
That's true. We'll see if they can sign guys or not. I mean, PG can slide over to small forward. Shaman can start at the 2, but there's no guarantees with the Clippers after what we saw last season.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously there's been some Westbrook smoke to like Orlando. That's like an 8 seed. Let's be honest. Chicago, please don't happen. Please don't trade for Russell Westbrook. Please don't trade for Russell Westbrook. Charlotte, because he's Michael Jordan's best friend or something like that. And if you want to be a 8 seed, like sure. I don't really know. I don't think the Knicks. If you're the Knicks, if you're the Knicks and you have Julius Randle and Taj Gibson or something like that, yeah, I'll do that. But like, if you're a team with a young future, don't ruin it. Especially with the Knicks case, like they have RJ Barrett, who is a guy who needs the ball and isn't the best 3-point shooter in the world. Like Westbrook doesn't make sense for him and his growth. It's just I don't know what team fits for Russell Westbrook.
I bet you he doesn't get moved.
It's just hard to move Westbrook at how he is now. I just don't see a team really wanting him.
And his salary is ginormous. I mean, he requested out though, CJ. So you don't think he's gonna get moved?
I mean, I just don't think they'll find a trade that's useful enough for the Rockets. I could maybe see the trade deadline if he has a big start of the season, but.
Do you think Detroit for Blake Griffin is reasonable?
I mean, I think Detroit wants to draft a primary playmaker like maybe Halliburton, LaMelo Ball, or Killian Hayes. Because I don't think Russell Westbrook fits their timeline. I think they just want to get rid of Blake's contract and be done with him.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to find a certain fit for Westbrook. He just doesn't have a future with the team. There's not really anybody that suits him. He just wants to play Westbrook ball again, which means having the ball in his hands at all times and directing the offense and putting up triple doubles again. But we've seen this before with KD, with PG, with Harden. When is he going to have some playoff success? And people are talking about how James Harden's the problem in Houston because CP3 and Harden and Westbrook have wanted out. James Harden's not the problem. Dwight wouldn't cooperate with him. He would wanted to post up all game. CP3 didn't request out. Harden wanted him out, and CP3 got traded. And it wasn't even traded because of James Harden. It was because the owner wanted Chris Paul out because he thought it was the worst contract in sports history. And now Westbrook wants out because of Houston. And like James Harden's made it to the Western Conference Finals. None of these guys have had success going into the playoffs without James Harden. It's blasphemy that James Harden's getting blamed for this right now.
Is that it? I think
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. Thank you for tuning in to episode number 9 of the Triple Threat Crowd podcast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Comment some ideas for what we should do next after we finish these positional rankings. We'll probably do a reacting to the draft and maybe react to some like free agency signings and trades, but just let us know what you want to see. And thanks for tuning in.